You're listening to Wildlife Control Consultant, where we provide research-based information on all things related to vertebrate pest management.
When we're trapping voles, we have a few traps that you have available. You have this variety that's really nice because it allows you to let the vole go without getting your hands dirty. Where these, once the vole is caught, you have to get up into vole's business and remove the trigger bar here, the striker bar. So choose what you would like. Generally speaking, the wooden-based traps are going to be less expensive than these, but you have to decide for your own personal taste. One challenge with these larger traps is that there's not a really, I haven't found a good way to stabilize them on the ground, where the wooden ones, you can put a nail in and just punch it in place. Now you want to bait these traps accordingly so that the vole, when he comes out of the burrow, is going to get into the trap. And you'll get a handle on how far away. If there's a trail in between two holes, then put the trap in between and let the vole simply crawl over and hit it in a blind set. Whenever you're baiting a trap, always make sure you are covering the trap. Now, one way to do that is you're going to put a whole bunch of traps around. I'm just going to place these around in here just to kind of illustrate. And then you're going to cover them with a large box and then stake the box down. Now you can't wait too long, too many days, because if you wait too many days, you're going to kill the grass underneath it. But this is going to prevent birds and other animals from interfering with your trap. I have a colleague out of Pennsylvania who actually uses a triangular wooden box system that he then uses a T-bar to anchor it into the ground. But I'm just trying to illustrate how you would trap a cluster of holes, or what we call a colony. And this is a very simple way to do it. Of course, if you're getting in, since you're in business, you probably want to use something a little bit more permanent than cardboard, but cardboard will certainly work. And then you would want to check this each day. Remove the bodies, but you always want to remember when you're trapping, more is better. You want to try to use a bunch of traps because voles can come in pretty big numbers, and you want to totally eliminate the voles in this particular colony and then trap the next colony. But of course, you'd be doing this all over the yard, so when you make a visit, you're able to check those traps relatively quickly. And that's pretty much about it when it comes to trapping voles at a whole colony. We're here with a vole trail. Here you can see the vole would move along through here and they clip the grass, and then ultimately over time they're going to cut this down right to the soil, so you'll see this brown line. And what they want is they want the grass to grow over the top to create a shelter for them. That's why it's so important to cut your grass, because they want that shelter to protect them from the many predators that they have. Life as a vole is pretty tough, so they'll do anything they can to try to reduce the risk of predation. And so this is one of the ways they'll get food off the grass, but then they want that cover over the top. So when you see these trails, we can exploit that with a blind set. Now, when we talked about the holes, we were talking primarily with baited sets. With this, we're primarily talking about non-baited sets, what we call blind sets. And again, the principle is to simply place your trap in the trail so that the vole has to step on the trigger as he's running by. And that's basically it. You don't even need to bait anything, which is pretty neat. If you don't have bait on your trap, you don't have to cover it. But if you are putting bait on the trap, or if you're just very concerned about nosy dogs, nosy kids, maybe you're just worried about liability, which is fine, there are different ways to cover your trap, and one of the ways is doing this. Get yourself a sort of plastic gutter, cut it in sections, and then drill holes in it, and then you can put that over the run that allows the trap to fire, and then of course you anchor it down like so. that keeps it from being moved. Makes a little bit more work for you, to be sure, but it does give you a little bit of extra peace of mind. But if you are baiting the trap, you always want to cover the trap. Now, you wouldn't just use one here, you'd want to use a couple. Just be sure they're far enough away so that the concussion of one doesn't fire the other one. So I'm not a big fan of these metal traps here. I would encourage you, if you're using blind sets, to use the expanded trigger. But again, you can practice and figure out which system you like the best. Pretty straightforward system. Just remember, with traps, more is always going to be better. And they'll just crawl over each other's bodies and just string them along this trail and capture them out and be done with it. Now, if you're looking for something a little bit more long-term or easier to set, you can also use a tin cat or a catch-all. The key is to make sure that the hole lines up with the run, and they will literally run straight in. And then I would put a glue board inside to capture them as they're coming through the opening here so they don't jam it up. And so this is something that would work quite well for you.
This is the disclaimer for Wildlife Control Consultant Podcast. Vertebrate pest control is an inherently dangerous activity involving risk of bodily injury to you, others, and/or property. Vertebrate pest control also involves legal issues, so be sure to always follow national, state, provincial, and local laws when using pesticides and/or other control methods when controlling pests. Wildlife Control Consultant LLC, Stephen M. Vantassel, or their affiliates are not responsible for your use of the information provided here. Always consult a qualified and appropriate professional before employing the information provided here.